This is Public Advocate, and I'm Shirley Graves. We have a program for you today that is about a current issue. My guest, who's sitting here at the table with me, is Dawna Gallagher-Stroeh. She is the Executive Director of Clean Water, Sonoma, Marin.
Thank you.
She has a project that she's going to tell us about and tell us about the background, and she has very many important things to share with us, so I'm going to just get her start talking right now.
Well, Shirley, it's always a pleasure to be on your show. And well, I am hoping that the viewers will really appreciate getting updated on what is going on in the world of water fluoridation. You know, many times we run into people and they go, oh, water fluoridation, isn't that over? Hasn't that been done with? But it hasn't.
So, or they say, what is that? So,
or what is that, right.
So you be sure to mention what that is.
Sure, so this, back in 1972, in Marin County, the people thought something was going to help with dental decay and voted in putting fluoride in the drinking water, hoping that it would perhaps get to a lot of people who couldn't afford access and that type of thing. Well, lo and behold, we've learned a lot since then. In fact, one of the most important things I haven't even had a chance to tell you, Shirley, about is the fact that the National Institute of Health, who, by the way, was one of the biggest policy promoters 70 years ago of putting water fluoridation in the water across the United States. They've tranced that out for 70 years. Well, they, just in December, launched with their toxicology arm of their health institute an investigation on the neurotoxicity of fluoride in the water. Finally.
Imagine that.
Well, they've only been delivered 100 animal studies and 60 human studies that shows that fluoride in the water, when ingested, causes a lowering of IQ. So, but now they're finally, that's a big deal. That's, I hope this is going to be the first that many of the people watching this show will have heard of. And that's very exciting. We're going to watch for that. That would be nice if at the federal level, this whole thing just halted, wouldn't it?
Yes,
a girl can dream, right? I can dream. I can have a little bit of a dream. Meanwhile, while we're dreaming, we have to also be in action. So what Clean Water Sonoma Marin, with its mission statement to take the fluoride out of Marin County and actually stop Sonoma County from fluoridating, which we have done. I always like to start with a success, and celebrate. Happy, you know, it's a good year when you can celebrate a success. On May 19th, 2015, we were able to stop Sonoma County from actually putting fluoride in the water. So that's very exciting. I think it's not ever going to happen. I think the Board of Supervisors saw the wisdom that this is an idea whose time has come and gone, that we know more and it shouldn't happen. Now, how does that affect Nevadans?
Yes.
You and me, we live here in Novato. Novato is never fluoridated, however, 80% of their water comes from the Sonoma County Water Agency. So if the Board of Supervisors in Sonoma County would have voted, Novato would have to have fluoridated water. So we're all really super celebrating that. But the next step in our goal at Clean Water Sonoma Marin, and by the way, if you want any information we don't provide here, my website is cleanwatersonoma-marin.org, and there's information there to email me or call, so feel free to do that. Lots of questions get answered. But what we have to do now is gather signatures for the rest of Marin County. Since the people voted in fluoridation 40 years ago, over 40 years ago, the only way to really get it out is for the people to go back to the polls and vote it out. And we have worked, our group and a lot of citizen volunteers throughout the county have gone to the Marin Municipal Water District and done many presentations in the past 2 years presenting the fact that this is abusing our choice to put in our own bodies. It's unethical. Now we have studies that say it doesn't work, and that it's harmful, and that we felt that the Marin Municipal Water District could they themselves stop fluoridating when they see that there may be a risk, and their mission statement says to provide clean and safe water, they wouldn't do it.
I've read that this is the only medicine, the only drug that is given to everybody in the country without
Their permit.
without any prescription or need or anything. You got it, you get it.
Right. So, in our water. So,
In your water, right, you drink it, but
yeah.
unless you go out and buy, pay good money for bottled water or something, which
Right.
you shouldn't have to do. But
And there's never been one single study for 70 years that after the age of 16, it ever is beneficial to anyone. So, however, the Marin Municipal Water District feels they can't just stop
Right.
doing it because the people voted it in, even though it was a long time ago. So the citizens in Marin County wrote an initiative ballot measure that simply states that we shall halt, that requesting that if we vote on, if this ballot measure makes it to the ballot, it says calling for a moratorium on fluoridation until the safety studies for ingestion are provided by the manufacturer to the public. So we've asked for the safety studies for 2 years from the Marin Municipal Water District. They haven't been able to provide them. So this, in effect, would be a way to vote out the fluoridation. Now, you might want to ask me, that seems like an awkward way to vote yes or no on fluoridation. You want to know why we're doing it this way?
You're doing fine, yes. Why are you doing it that way?
Well, what has happened in the state of California, when the cities or municipalities go to vote yes or no on fluoridation, the California Dental Association spends an obnoxious amount of money on putting out propaganda that says that if you stop fluoridating, the cavities will rise, the kids will not, be healthy. And they spend more money than any citizen group could ever spend to defend the fact that it should be taken out. So this way, we're just asking for a simple thing that we feel under the California Clean Water Act, where we're supposed to be provided under our own state law, safe, clean water.
Right.
We're asking for the safety studies for ingestion of the chemical that's being put in our otherwise really great water we have in Marin. So we feel we're, by the rights of our California Clean Water Act and by our rights as citizens who purchased that water from the water agency, that we should be able to have the right to have the safety studies for ingestion. I think this is the perfectly sensible, reasonable way to go forward with this, and I think even our medical professionals, whether they be dentists or pediatricians, should certainly wish for safe water for their patients, don't you think?
I would think
It kind of makes too much sense, but so that's why we're taking that tact.
Most people, or not most people now, but many people have no idea that what fluoride is, or that it's in their water, or whatever.
Yeah.
I was involved in this issue back in the 70s when Dr. John Lee in Mill Valley was known in Marin for speaking against it, a medical doctor, and he spoke all over the world by the time they figured out that he was very good at it, had all the information, had studied it, and it was surprising the people, even in the people in government and whatnot, that had no idea what it really even was.
That's right.
So education is important too.
Yeah. Well, I think the public is smarter today. I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
pretty much with what's happened with cigarette smoking, what's happened with asbestos, DDT, the GMO. I think people realize that if we merely follow the money, we get to the answer pretty quickly, don't you think? And so what has happened when you do follow the money, you find that fluoridation began, actually over 100 years ago, Alcoa Aluminum was actually allowing a byproduct from their aluminum processing to go into the lake or go into the rivers and streams, and it killed everything below that stream. So that's when this all began, when we found out that it was a toxin. But then there was lawsuits and that kind of thing, and the only way to cover up those lawsuits was to make fluoride be a good guy and find a use for it. We've seen this recipe over and over again, where a byproduct or a toxin has been told that if we just spread it out thinly, no one will notice it, and maybe it'll have even a benefit. So that's what's happened here. So then the policy of fluoridating to do tooth decay was sold to the dentists as a way for them to get their credibility. Because 70 years ago, if you'll remember, the dental industry wasn't as credible. It was kind of like what the chiropractors had to go through about 30 years ago, right? they had to get credibility in the medical arena. And I have a lot of friends that are dentists, so I am not putting down dentists. What has happened is they were looking for a way to get to more children who may not be able to afford it, and they were sold a wonderful sales pitch over 70 years ago that if we put the fluoride in the water, then we'll reach all the children and that there'll be less tooth decay. Now, since that time, and that was a policy that they hoped it worked. And it actually was an experiment. You know, it was an experiment the first 5 years. You realize that, right? They even called it that. They did 2 towns from back east, one with the fluoride, one without, to see if an improvement. Well, pretty soon by that time, all these other cities across the United States says, well, we want it, and then it became policy. And when policy is king, science becomes its slave. Unfortunately, then, science became looking for a way to prove that this worked. Now, since that time, we've had several studies come out. One of the largest government studies in 1989, the 39,207 children aged 12 through 17 in this country. And this is a government study that cost $4 million, by the way. But they hid that study after it was done. I'm going to tell you that right now. We had to dig it up in the archives. I went back to Washington, D.C. with a group of volunteers. 39,200 children from 12 to 17 years old in half unfluoridated, 84 cities in this country, 84 cities across the United States, half unfluoridated and half cities that were fluoridated for many years, okay? No statistical significant difference in tooth decay. This was a 2-year study, very well done, no difference in tooth decay. We had an opportunity in this country to stop fluoridation back then when we found out it didn't work. And then we found out fluoride has been used as a drug. It is an unapproved drug according to the FDA, if you look in their books. It was used to lower thyroid in the human in the 50s. We know that it does that. So here we know it's harmful. We know it doesn't work. And then those were a couple times when we could have stopped fluoridation. And the third time when we could have stopped fluoridation is when our own CDC, our Centers for Disease Control, came out in 1999 and said fluoride only works topically. You see, when they started this whole program, there was no fluoride in our toothpaste. In the 1970s, 80s, and the 90s, we've had fluoride in our toothpaste. Well, tooth decay rates have gone down around the world because of access, health, better nutrition, access to dentists, and more brushing and flossing around the world. Tooth decay rates have gone down the same rate in unfluoridated countries as well as fluoridated countries. It's not because of the fluoride. It's because of the access, the nutrition, health.
Yeah.
Improving one's health and access to better dental care.
Well, telling people they should brush their teeth, that wasn't something that was done years
Right.
ago.
So our own Centers for Disease Control admitted in 1999 that it only works topically. Now,
When a dentist
That's it.
coats your teeth with
Right.
it, it's poisonous, so it
Right.
kills everything, and then the dentist tells you to rinse.
so it's so then here's another time that that the pro-fluoride people like to trounce out is they say, well, the World Health Organization promotes water fluoridation. They never finish the quote. The World Health Organization promotes water fluoridation, but not until the community you're about to fluoridate measured for the already up intake of fluoride. You see, now that fluoride is in everything, it has been for 70 years. Now it's in your food, your juices, it's in a lot of stuff. And so now you're not just getting it from the water, you're getting it from your food, from your juices, from your soups. It's in everything, you see.
And your toothpick.
Right. So now we're over fluoridated. So here we go again, yet another admission by our government. I'm going to tell you another time when we should have stopped fluoridation. But let me finish with the World Health Organization. They have said, and still say today, only consider water fluoridation if you measure the people in a community to see if they're not already being over fluoridated. And in the United States, in every case, we are being over-fluoridated. In comes the admission by our department, our federal Department of Health and Human Services. April 27th of 2015, this is great news to you people that are watching this show. Most people don't know this, that on that date, our Department of Health and Human Services admitting to the public of the United States that we have over-fluoridated our people for the past 4 decades. That is evidenced by the fact that we have a 41% dental fluorosis rate throughout the country. Now, you know, an average of 41% dental fluorosis includes people who aren't in a fluoridated area and who are in a heavily fluoridated area. For example, the Deep South has 70% dental fluorosis. Places that don't have water fluoridation are probably getting some fluoride from their soups, water, agriculture, etc. And so they have 20 or 25% fluorosis. So when you look at the whole country as a whole, our own Department of Health and Human Services admitted our country is over-fluoridated by evidence of a 41% dental fluorosis. And for those of you who know what dental fluorosis is, when you ingest fluoride, it's a systemic, and it goes into every organ system in your body. It does not just go to your teeth, but the teeth is a window to how much fluoride you've ingested. When it comes out of your teeth when you're young, your teeth are forming, it binds to calcium, and it shows up as symmetrical spots on your teeth. It's easy to see if someone's had dental fluorosis because especially the 2 front teeth, the spots will be pretty equal because those teeth grew out sort of in a similar time frame, and so their spots will be pretty close together. This is dental fluorosis. Now, another study that has come out last year, a couple months ago, is the proof that the rate of dental fluorosis, like a couple of spots would be mild, more spots would be moderate, and if there's brown or streaking, that is severe dental fluorosis. There's now a study that just came out that connects the degree of spots on the teeth to a lowering of the IQ. So there's been 60 human studies on fluorosis and IQ loss from the ingestion of fluoride. This is why we are asking for the safety studies as a way to stop the fluoridation in Marin Municipal Water District. We know there are none. Nowhere in the country are there safety studies. It's not safe to ingest.
No, it hasn't been studied as it should. It's been studied in some ways, but not as it should.
Right. And the dentists like to say, I feel bad, I'm not putting down the dentist. It's actually really not so much the dentist as it is the American Dental Association and the California Dental Association. These are merely, if you will, chamber of commerces for the industry. Like the AMA is merely a spokesperson or chamber of commerce for the doctors. And I know many doctors who don't belong to the AMA because they don't feel like they can adhere to some of the policies that the AMA even trounces out. I know there's about 25% of the doctors that will not belong because they're not in agreement with some of the things that they've come out with, some of the policies that make people take medicines that maybe they don't want to take or they maybe shouldn't be taking. Not everyone's, some people are allergic to things. You can't just use a one-size-fits-all methodology that fluoridation is, especially. So anyway, and I think you brought up earlier about the Environmental Protection Agency. What most people don't understand is the FDA monitors what goes in you, and the EPA monitors what goes out in our environment. Does that make sense if you look at our two government entities? So the EPA's job is actually to monitor what goes into our water and air. But if you're now putting something into our water that then goes into our body, now the FDA should be stepping in.
Yeah.
You see, the EPA and the FDA should be playing a role in this. And guess what we found out when we went to Washington, D.C. and asked why the FDA is not playing a bigger role in the the fact that we think we know the fluoride's a neurotoxin, the FDA said, well, that's the EPA's responsibility. It's stuff you're putting in their water. And then we went to the EPA and we asked the EPA and the EPA said, no, that's the FDA's responsibility because it's something that you're ingesting. So who, I want to ask the public watching the show, is watching the hen house? Do you understand why this policy, to understand how this policy has been trounced out for 70 years, it is because no one's taking responsibility.
Yes, right.
The scientists, if you want to study the neurotoxicity of this, you have to get grants. Your college needs to get money from somewhere. If you're going to go against the grain and study something, you're going to mostly, for the most part, have to pay for it yourself. You're not going to get the grants from the phosphate fertilizer industry, the Alcoa industry, the DuPont industry, the Teflon making industries.
Oh, Teflon.
These are the industries who use the byproduct, use fluoride in their processing, and then have fluoride as a byproduct. Then it has to be caught in these scrubbers at the top of the smokestacks, and according to our EPA, is supposed to be gotten rid of the way other toxins are gotten rid of. For example, cadmium, lead, arsenic, beryllium, those types of things are supposed to be caught and either buried. Unfortunately, nobody's happy about this. It's probably buried in either Nevada or Kettleman, if you're in California, that's where they bury stuff like this. But at the very least, getting rid of this byproduct in a way it does not come in contact with drinking water, that it does not come in contact with food and that kind of thing. It's supposed to be gotten rid of like a true toxin that it is. Well, that's not what's happening. It's being sold as a product to the likes of Univar, Solar, Mosaic, who just got, by the way, Mosaic, the toxic company, just got a $2 billion penalty for the way they get rid of their toxins. But a new industry here in California called Brentag, which is where the Marin Municipal Water District gets their toxic fluoride, hydrofluorosilicic acid that they put in our water to fluoridate our water. If they get this from Santa Fe, California, which I found out this distributorship in California, in Santa Fe, California, Brentag, they get their toxic product from Korea, Florida, and China. Now,
Goodness.
just having told you that, Korea and China do not fluoridate their water. You see, they know that fluoride, when ingested, causes a loss in IQ. You see, why is our country the last country to get rid of something that's harmful to us? It really is follow the money. I just told you who the players are. And I'm not making any of this up. I'm a scientist. I looked at the 8-page material data safety sheet that the Marin Municipal Water District provided me that shows what this chemical is that they're putting in the water. And what it shows is that it's 1.2 pH when they get it to their station. A hazmat trained person has to take it from the truck and put it at the Marin Municipal Water District plant in Corte Madera with a hazmat training. It's so acidic that if it leaks out and you have a spill, the fire department has to be there with their hazmat trained people, and it will burn a hole in the sidewalk. And that's a fact because the accidents have already happened and we have recordings of that happening in other places. It's easy to Google that and go on my website, cleanwatersonomamarin.org. You'll find this information there. It's available to anyone. It's really quite scary that this much information is available and we haven't just merely stopped putting this toxin in. I know you don't know what to say.
No, I've been involved in this for so long that you wouldn't even believe it. My quick little story here is that one of my children was born in Illinois when we were there for about a year and a half on a business issue, and when she was 4 months old, we drove across the country and came back home again. And so I had carried her and then delivered her, and she had 4 months worth of the water there. And when she began getting teeth a few months after we came home, they were brown and yellow striped with a little white running through it and whatnot. And when they teeth got big enough that I was really sure what was happening, I took her off to a doctor, practically threw her at the doctor. And he said, oh, that's, where is she born? He asked me some questions and whatnot. Oh, he said, that's just fluorosis. Like there was just nothing to it. But at that moment, that's when my interest peaked over this issue, because if it did that to one of your body parts, what was it doing to your other body parts that you couldn't see?
And I think it's really unfortunate, because I believe the the public health policymakers have so sold that this is a panacea or a one-size-fits-all way to get rid of cavities, that they've convinced the dentists, and I really do feel, I'm a medical professional, I'm a nutritionist, this is why I know what I know of 25 years. I make a joke with my good friends that are dentists. I say, you're an engineer from here to here. They're engineers from this part here, and then I'm an engineer for the rest of the body, because I am concerned about how your food and environment and genetics and everything affect your overall health. I'm a nutritionist. I help make changes in people's lives if they've ingested the wrong things, or they want to lose weight or fix their metabolism. Which is why I became so interested in this 3.5 years ago, is because all the good work I do to help people lose weight, fix their metabolism, is undermined by fluoride in the water, because fluoride is an enzymatic inhibitor.
Right.
Therefore, it is an endocrine disruptor, and we know now what endocrine disruption does. Look at it's changing the sex of the fish and the frogs. It's an endocrine disruption. And we're wondering why people are having lowered sperm counts and things like that, and we're looking around the answers. It isn't just fluoride. There are other endocrine disruptors in our environment, but why would you, when you know there's other endocrine disruptors that we can't control, it's just going into our air, when you can control them by making sure you have it not in your water, where you can control it, manufacturing and taking it out of your water. That's why I became really interested in, and actually too interested. I actually have taken a sabbatical from my profession in order to do this full time. It's that important. It's for our next generation. I'm doing this for our next generation. I can't bear the thought anymore. Your story makes me cry, because I know your daughter, I know there's a lot of kids like your daughter that had that happen to them, and that hurt their health.
Well, yeah.
At an early place in their life, when their immune system's developing and that kind of thing, it's hard to talk about even.
Well, I got her back to California when she was 4 or 5 months old, but think of the kids back there.
Who stayed there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well, it does affect the immune system. And if it's going to, for people who didn't like biology in school, I apologize, because, I'm really serious. I have to make a little laugh about that, because my own sister, we have to have a little fun here. My own sister, who did not like biology, constantly says to me, Dawna, you are no fun at cocktail parties. I'm not taking you anymore. You are just not fun. So because I explained to people how their cells work, and most people don't want to know. But so inside the cell, the fluoride inhibits proper carbohydrate and protein metabolism. Now, that in a person who's already a little bit weak, or let's say someone's born premature, or they already have some genetic components against them, well, in those persons in particular, this could make them go more towards diabetes, hypothyroidism. It could make them more subject to other immune disorders. And if your immune system is diminished for a period of time, over time, day by day, there's one thing that you're doing every day, and that's drinking water. What you do daily is really reflective of how your health ends up. Something that you do every day that lowers your body's immune system, you could have all kinds of symptoms, like, arthritis. You don't think you're going to have arthritis, but you have symptoms of arthritis, but maybe it's just your immune system is not getting what it needs because you're drinking fluoride every day. These are the things we know happen at the cellular level when there's an intake of fluoride in your water every day. We know that. That's why it's stunning to me that our own federal government doesn't just stop doing it, that our own state legislatures. So if you're watching this and you feel powerless, this is a lot of bad news if this is the first time you've heard this. I really apologize. Don't kill the messenger. I've cried a lot reading all the information that I could about this issue, but I remain in action every day, and I write to my legislators. Mark Levine is very aware of this, and he needs your letters. He's aware as a state legislature
Oh.
that this is harmful, and he can't take charge on his own in the state capitol. We need to write and get Mike McGuire, who's new, to be fully aware of this issue. We need our congressperson, Jared Huffman. I have met with him. I have told him what this is, and he now is going to need to know that our own National Institute of Health is calling it a neurotoxin. See, instead of being a leader, he's a follower right now. We got to get him to lead on this. You know, this is important. If they're studying it as a neurotoxin, we need to be, you know, at the minimum, we could halt it until we find out if it's safe. And that is why we're trying to do that at the smaller level with the Marin Municipal Water District. We're hoping to set this example with Marin. You know, everyone in the state of California watches what Marin does.
Yeah.
You know this, right? They're all kind of wondering.
I've heard that, yes.
Yeah, they're always kind of wondering what happens on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge. Are we really peacock and hot tubs, peacock feathers and hot tubs, or are we, or do we really care about our environment? Well, we do care. I believe we care. And I believe if we have to get 14,000 signatures by April 30th, and I'm just putting this out there because if you want to volunteer, I've made it very easy. We have clipboards with signatures, we have materials, we have everything available. It's very easy to collect signatures. People are very happy that we're doing this. I have had many people come up to me and said, "Where have you been? I've been wanting someone to do this for 25 years," and they bawl me out sort of, in a funny sort of way. You know? They're not really bawling me out, they're just going, why have we done this? Why have we done this before now? Which is exactly how I feel too.
Yeah.
But so if you want to volunteer, you can call me. My number is 415-858-2402. I'll be happy to find out what you would like to do. There's plenty of things to do. But gathering signatures right now to get those 14,000 signatures in Marin County by April 30th is the only way we can get this on the ballot. It's going to have to be citizen-led. I believe we can do it. We've got 1,500 of them now. We just got started. I believe we can do it in the next 4 months.
Oh my.
I'm very hopeful. We only got started. So, or you can go to my website and fill out a volunteer form, and I'll get back to you. There's plenty of ways to volunteer. So I'm really hoping. So stay in action. I guess what I'm trying to say is, when you're given bad news, you know, when you get lemons, make lemonade. I think we have to stay in action. I think we can change this. I think it's the year to do it because in a presidential election, you have the greatest turnout, and issues like these do well. They tend to do better for the people when you have a larger turnout.
Well,
That's
I
why
think-
this election is
yeah,
so important.
I know there have been elections in the past, but I think too that people are more aware about the chemicals in their bodies now than they were
I think so.
many years ago. A chemical that was going to do this for you, great, some time ago. I mean, I've lived long enough to have heard a lot of that, but now people are finding out that, you know, wait a minute, they're not all that good for you.
I think this is right in line with several other issues that are being fought out right now, having to do with chemicals in our body and having the freedom to choose what we put in our body. I think it's right in line. I think it's good timing. So do you have any other questions for me?
Well, I think that you're just doing a marvelous work. It's certainly been done before, but then people give up.
That's true.
And so,
it's hard work.
And so I'm very pleased with what you're doing. I'm glad that you're sharing it with all of us. And we have the telephone number that people can call if they want to give you or your group any help.
Right. I'll go ahead and tell you my website again.
Yes.
It's cleanwatersonoma.org. And we do have a Facebook page, and we love it when the younger people go to our Facebook page. So it's Clean Water Sonoma Marin on the Facebook, facebook.com, and then Clean Water Sonoma Marin. You'll find us there. My email directly is Dawna Gal, DAWNAGAL, at bigplanet.com. Not small planet, big planet. No. So it's Dawna Gal at bigplanet.com. And my phone number again is 415-858-2402. And I'll be glad to hook you up with a clipboard, and I'll even walk with you. It's really fun. It's we go to the fair, the Civic Center, the San Rafael Farmers Market.
Farmers Market.
We are in several doctors' offices. So when you go on the website, you'll actually see that there's some dentists and doctors who have the clipboards in their practices all week long, so people can go there and sign. So there's stationary places, there's moving places. We are really looking for more people to go to their own neighborhoods and their own school districts especially the schools. We've met quite a few teachers so far, and they've taken the clipboards right back to their school and talked to their parents, because of course they don't want their children's IQ lowered. As soon as a parent or a teacher finds out that there is proof, Harvard study, that said that it lowers IQ, they don't want it. So the people are out there, and I'm so glad to have this opportunity to let people know how they can make a difference. And writing letters to the editor, that's always good. The Marin IJ has been very good with this issue. They are glad to print your letters. So they've been very good. We've had the op-ed piece in recently, and also they did a front page ad on the kickoff on our campaign. So, you know, support your local paper, send them letters to the editor. They'll be happy to print them, I'm sure. So, yeah. And if you have other ideas, actually, call me at 415-858-2402.
Wow. Now, how did you get seriously interested in this?
Well, that's a very good question. That's a very interesting question, because I was, at the time, working in Sonoma County, and I picked up the Press Democrat. Speaking of newspapers, I picked up the Press Democrat, and I remember exactly when it was. It was August of 2012. And I read the story of the brand new public health officer that they hired, Dr. Silver Chalfin. And she said, "I'm glad to be coming to Sonoma County from New York. And one of my top 3 things I want to do for Sonoma County is fluoridate the water." And I remember setting the paper down and walking over to the phone. You know, I'm a health professional, so I knew the number of the public health department for Sonoma County, and I called immediately and asked for an appointment to meet with her. And that first meeting was eye-opening for her, because she had moved here, and I had been working with health professionals in Sonoma County for all those all those years. And I said, well, I just thought I'd let you know that the health professionals in Sonoma County, they want to prevent. They're mostly alternative. They mostly look at other ways to provide health care, and they're going to look at what really works. And they're going to know that fluoridating the water never worked. They know that. You've come here, and I can tell you what the health professionals are like here. And she says, oh no, we'll convince them that we can fluoridate the water. And I said, no, you won't. She met with me 5 other times, and we launched our campaign. I created the nonprofit, 501c3. We're nonprofit, so if you want to donate, there's a PayPal button right on our website. But we created this nonprofit to organize the people, raise money, put on seminars, put on educative things, and write letters. And that's how we created those 2,500 signatures, 125 businesses against fluoridation, and 60 doctors and dentists, and that's how we stopped fluoridation on May 19th, 2015. Right. Meanwhile, that particular public health officer quit. She resigned because she could see that she wasn't going to win.
Oh, well, there has to be other things in life than fluoridation.
That's right. She should have realized that. No. But anyway, so that was that was a joint effort of a lot of people.
My goodness.
We have an awesome crew in Sonoma County and in Marin County now. So be a part of that crew. So you can go to my website at Clean Water Sonoma Marin. You can find out how you can help us gather signatures. We have to get 14,000 signatures by April 30th. Well, we'll turn those in to qualify for the November 2016 ballot. So we're hoping to qualify for that. So join us. It's your water. You should care.
And the ballot will not just say stop fluoridation. The ballot is asking for proof that it works, so to speak.
Right. It's asking for a moratorium or a halting until the safety studies are provided by the manufacturer. And I just told you who that manufacturer is. They're not likely going to provide. All they can provide right now is what's called a certificate of analysis. It's one page that says what toxins are in it.
Well, there's something about Alcoa.
It's not a safety study.
Alcoa used to be somewhat responsible.
Yes.
You didn't mention that.
Well, and actually some of the batches that are provided for fluoridating chemicals, they've been tested by an independent party. Phyllis Mullinex has done study on this, and some of those batches actually have aluminum in them. Mm-hmm. Now, you know there's zero tolerance for aluminum in our water, and some of them have arsenic, and there's zero tolerance for arsenic in our water. So right there, that should not be put in our water, because our California Clean Water Act says no arsenic and aluminum in our water. So help us uphold the law, if you will, by helping us halt or call for a moratorium on the fluoridating of the Marin municipal water, by helping us get the signatures to put it on the ballot in November to halt the fluoridation until the safety studies are provided. So this is kind of an interesting, let's all have a visual. Okay, so let's say we get those signatures with your help, and then we get it on the ballot in November, and the ballot day comes and the people vote it out. They vote yes on this. It'll be a yes vote, yes to halt the fluoridation until the safety studies are provided. So that means when we win that, the Marin Municipal Water District must stop right then and there, within 2 or 3 days, this will be done, until they provide the safety studies. So they can't start back up until and the verifiable safety studies for ingestion for all consumers is provided by the makers of this toxin, which can't happen because you can't actually do a double-blind placebo study in a lab on humans with a byproduct of the phosphate fertilizer industry. You shouldn't, there's been many weird experiments in this country over the years, but that is a weird experiment that is not allowed in the year 2016 in a lab. Maybe on animals, but not on humans. So there's no way to get safety studies on this toxin in that way that we know how to study something that's safety in a lab.
No,
it can't be done.
I found back when I was first involved in it, after my daughter had this problem in the, late 50s, nobody mentioned it here at all. I'm sure it was going on in Illinois and whatnot. But then when they started talking about it here in the 70s, the people that had no idea what it even was, our doctor had really no idea, it hadn't come up, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember that we had a committee, we started a committee when we heard about this. And Dr. Lee gave us a time to come after his regular hours to discuss it with him. And he hadn't been exposed to the thoughts like that at all before. He was very interested. He went up and got his research, and you couldn't just go on the computer like you can now.
Now you can go on the computer and find out the things that I'm going to say now, which is,
well, they had a library at Marin General Hospital. I remember he went there to see what was going on.
The hard way.
And then he went over to UC Berkeley and crawled through their stuff, but you couldn't get it in the computer. He came back with a stack this high that he'd made copies of research over there that had been done and that was on file. And when we'd go and make a speech, he'd wave this around. And, I mean, he just, what he was up against back in the 70s, trying to tell people what it was that was going on. He just did a great job with what he had to work with.
Shirley, this has been the greatest sales job on the American people for the industry that needs to get rid of this toxin. In fact, when I run into people and they go, oh no, I still believe in fluoridation. Well, that's actually all it is. It's a belief system, because now that the science has showed that it doesn't work, it isn't safe, that's all it is. It's a myth. And I have asked many a parent and a pediatrician, and in particular, if you're a pediatrician, you're watching this one's for you. What parent in their right mind would actually would ruin the developing brain of their infant for a myth about tooth decay? That is a huge sacrifice to ask a parent to do. There's no parent that actually knows the truth about how this is not going to work for tooth decay and is a neurotoxin. No parent in their right mind would choose their developing brain of a child over a myth about tooth decay. There is no pediatrician on this earth that should allow this to happen. No. I'm not kidding. I hope this reaches some pediatricians, because I'm just ill when I've met some pediatricians who still recommend those tablets for children to ingest.
And it doesn't have to be in the water. The dentist can prescribe because
It
it's a
only works
medicine.
topically.
He has to prescribe it. Well, yeah, right. But I mean, they can prescribe the pills, or they can
No.
do a treatment in
No
their
child
office
should-
or something like
No
that.
child should ingest the pills either. It's a toxin that should not be ingested. I will
But
not.
if they do it because they want to, or their parents want to, it's a lot different because it's just in your
well,
water.
then it's a choice.
Yeah,
then it's a
it's a
choice.
choice.
But I'm telling you, if a parent knows, and I've had a lot of parents who said to me, they said they gave those tablets to their kids once, and the kid threw up, or got a headache, or got nauseous, and they just told the dentist they're not going to put them in the kid anymore. The kids will tell you that it upsets their stomach, or it's not good. It's a toxin.
Well,
And 1% of the population is absolutely allergic to fluoride, like violently allergic. So, as I say, you were talking about choice. I understand if the parent wants the kid to have the tablets, but no, I'm saying once a parent understands that it should not be ingested, no parent in their right mind would choose
No.
doing damage to the developing brain of a child over a myth about tooth decay. It's stunning. Once they're informed, once they actually do their own due diligence. Like I say, go to my website. You'll find the truth there. You'll find there's no anecdotal stories. There's no, gee, it seems to work. My kid's teeth seem good. There's none of that. There's only facts at cleanwatersonomamarin.org. Okay?
Well, we're coming to the end of our presentation here. Is there anything we have forgotten, Dawna Gallagher-Stroeh?
No, I just want to thank whoever's watching. It's a lot. It's a lot to listen to. I really do. And I do hope you'll do your own due diligence, not just believe me, not just believe your own dentist, but that you'll do your own due diligence. It's now available, all the information. Check out what is being studied by our federal government. They've actually eked out here and there a little bit of the fact that they know this is wrong. And you know, one thing government doesn't do so well is admit it when it's wrong. They don't admit, it's like an ego. It's, you know, none of us like to be wrong.
No, I was going to say none of us like to say,
None of us
I
like to
was
say,
wrong.
hey, I'm wrong, I'm sorry. And the liability might be huge if they came out and said we're wrong. But you know where
That's
the liability. Yeah. And you know where we are, Shirley, you realize where we are with fluoridation right now. We are at that same place that Philip Morris was at when the cigarette smoking thing was coming down. We knew it caused cancer. We knew it caused people's deaths. And Philip Morris spent money and dug in their heels deeper than they ever did before on the way out because they actually knew they were wrong. And they knew the liability was coming down. And that is right exactly where we are with fluoridation in this country. The ADA and the CDA are spending money to make sure this stuff doesn't get on the ballot. There will be trouble. But the way we've worded it, I think, is the kindest professional way we've worded it. Mm-hmm. We're not asking for a yes or no vote on the belief system of fluoridation. We're not asking that. We're asking what our right is as a citizen in the state of California. We have a right to clean, safe water. Our own Marin Municipal Water District has that in their mission statement. The California Clean Water Act says we have a right to that. And all we're doing is asking for what we have the right for. We're asking for a halting of the putting in of a known neurotoxin in our water until there's proof that it's safe. There's no proof that it's safe. We're just asking a reasonable question. This is the most reasonable thing the no fluoridation community has ever done. It's time.
Now, anybody that wants to go to your website, cleanwatersonomamarin.org,
and can contact me. There's a volunteer page. There's phone number. You have my email personally, Dawna Gal, DAWNAGAL @bigplanet.com. My phone number is 415-858-2402. I'd love to have you call me and say, gee, I don't really know how to volunteer. I've never done this before. I'll train you. We've got several people that will train you and walk with you. It's very easy. It's common sense. It's
to get signatures.
It's very common sense. We actually just say to people, it's not really whether you're for fluoridation or not. We haven't voted on this in 37 years. We're just asking for a halting because we can't get this. Yeah. We've asked for the safety studies for 2 years. They haven't been provided. We believe we know there's none. So we're asking for a halting until the proof that it's safe. So that's it. It's very simple.
That's it.
I believe.
Well, Dawna Gallagher-Stroeh has brought out a great deal of information about a subject on a medicine that a lot of people are taking and who don't even know they're taking it.
Right. I think there
And,
are a lot of people that don't know. So thank you so much for the show. I hope,
Well, thank you.
I hope
And
young people see it and realize.
so, for Public Advocate, thank you very much.
Thank you.